Shostakovich 5 has to seem melancholy and a bit at ease at the same time. The float in the phrase is important, the sense of easy arrival at the high upbeats, and the lovely way in which the long notes taper their sound, the lovely way in which come back, establishing an ever more peaceful and yet deeply felt quality.
Hi, my name is Andrew Wickesberg. I'm a section viola player with the Pittsburgh Symphony and a New World Symphony alumni. What we're going to talk about today is Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony, the viola excerpt that is the bane of a lot of people's existence. It's a really difficult thing to play in space by yourself. And I think the most important thing to think about when you're preparing this excerpt is to plan out your bow so that you're not adding accents on your up bows. Instead, trying to think about connecting and getting to a really distant point. This is, in my imagination, one of the most desolate things you'll ever hear. And you really want to keep the flow of it going so that you don't interrupt it with accents and you don't add forte where there isn't. This should always be a diminuendo until you get to the eighth notes. And then the motion comes back, but it's still in that desolate, distant feeling. I see a lot of people slide around a lot, especially into that high E flat. And I would suggest instead trying to reach for it so that you don't get this. Instead, you want... and then no slide here. That way you're not giving the committee the impression that there is a technical weakness to what you're doing. Another important thing to think about is the vibrato. You don't want to have an overly active vibrato like... Instead, a nice, easy, slow vibrato that connects from note to note, giving the impression that this phrase never really ends. Obviously making sure that on all of those up bows, if that's the bowing you're going to do, a lot of people alternate between up bows and down bows on those half notes. Making sure that those up bows don't have an accent or a crescendo, making sure they're always going into without adding dynamic. It's a really tricky excerpt, and it shows a lot, not only in terms of your bow control, but also your sense of pulse. You always have to remember that underneath you is that yum, ba, ba, beam, ba, ba, bum, ba, ba, that continues, and it's merciless. It never lets up, so you can't take too much time, especially on that E flat. Otherwise, you'll be completely late. It's a great excerpt to play. Always make sure you think of the line and make sure you're trying to be expansive in those long whole note, half note combinations so that it just has this feeling of broadness. I always like to imagine the Siberian wasteland with snow and ice and just feeling like you're the only person out there.